Good evening and welcome to day 4 of UKZN's virtual open week. My name is Tembele Tushange and I'm back and I'm honored again to be your host for this year's open week at UKZN. So today we have representatives from the various departments of student services who are here to share a bit more in terms of what these departments do in order to assist and help you as a future UKZN student have a smooth sailing journey, right? So today we have, in no particular order, Mark Bashe, who is the manager at Student Health and Sport. We also have Tabani Tsahi, who is the Resident Life Coordinator. We have Nondutuzelo Kobichona, who is from Student Funding. We have Ayanda Makanya, who is from Student Fees. And we have Mongezi Zondi from the Disability Department, who is now the Disability Coordinator. All right, so I'd just like to ask our panelists to introduce themselves. Tabani, let's start with you.
Good evening, colleagues. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. Yes. All right. My name is Tabani Tagi. I'm the Resident Life Coordinator at the campus. I lead a team of 33 RAs, 3 RLOs, and we take care of all student issues in the residence. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Tabani. Nondutuzelo.
Good evening, colleagues. My name is Nondutuzelo Kobichona. I am from Student Funding. My position is a coordinator for NSFAS claims and training. Under Student Funding, we have 3 sections. We have bursaries, scholarships, and NSFAS. But I am mainly administering NSFAS. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. NSFAS, we're definitely going to get into that a bit later on today. Ayanda, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ayanda Makanya. I'm an accounting officer and I work for the medical school campus fees office. And we are responsible for all fee-related queries. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that. And Mongezi?
Good evening. My name is Mongezi Zondo. I am the Disability Coordinator for the Pietermaritzburg campus. Our department is responsible for working to create access, inclusion, and meaningful participation for students with disabilities in all the offerings at the university. Just to note also that what I will be discussing today here will be applying for our offices in all other campuses as well. And thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, we'll get into you a bit later as well, Mark. Okay, I think Mark will join us a bit later. So let's get straight into it. There's a lot to unpack tonight. All right. So I'm not Nondutuzelo. Earlier on, you spoke about NSFAS, right? That is a big, big part of a lot of university students' journeys, right? So how do you in your office ensure that that journey in the application for NSFAS is seen through smoothly?
We advertise on behalf of NSFAS early using our land notices, having a countdown when we are left with a month to the closing date for NSFAS. Almost every day, we also put notices like your posters around the campus, and as well as we use the social media platforms. So almost, in fact, daily when we are left with a month up to till the closing, we do the countdown, countdown advertising on our lands for our students.
All right. Thank you so much. So I want to apply for NSFAS, right? But I don't even know what the requirements are. So what are the requirements in order for me to qualify?
Well, the requirements varies as per student's background, but initially we need a certified ID copy of the student, certified copies of parents, guardian, a death certificate where parents are deceased, guardianship, a communication from social worker, and then we need payslip and SASA for those that are depending on our social grant, and well as birth certificate of siblings, and also the proof of other siblings that are maybe at a university level, because that also counts for those students' funding.
All right. So thank you so much for that. Ayanda, so as part of the funding department, right, let's say I have received NSFAS funding. What then do I pay on my part? What are the things that I as a student need to fulfill in order to also be assisted by NSFAS?
Okay, I'm actually part of the fees office, but yeah, we work together with the funding department. So what actually happens, the funding office actually works out what the student needs to pay if they are not fully funded. But of course, they will have to elaborate why would a student qualify for a certain percentage and not the full amount and things like that. But the funding office actually works out the difference if the student needs to pay, a certain amount.
Sure. So what are some of the factors that actually determine whether or not I qualify, whether or not I qualify partially? What do you guys look at specifically so that a person who's watching can understand that, okay, I might not qualify for a full bursary, I might just get a partial one?
Okay. As I said, I'll have to allow Nontutuzel, I believe, from funding office to give more details on that.
Okay, all right.
It seems to be overlapping.
Well,
yeah.
Okay, back to you, Nontutuzel. So what are these requirements?
Thank you, Tim. Well, most of the time we follow the guide of the sponsor.
Okay.
Some sponsor will specifically say we're only giving 15,000 partial to a certain group of students, whether they are African, coming from a certain background, and they have met a certain level of competence in terms of academic. Some would say we're giving 150 specific for this discipline if it's engineering, but they should have 60% or 65%. So we only do as per the guide of the funder or sponsor. But with NSFAS has no cap. So if the budget of the student is 105, NSFAS will pay that. But although they do have a standard meals of 15,000 a year and a book allowance of 5,200 a year, and then the residence costs are determined by the university, which is, I think, with us, the most expensive one, around about 48,000, and that is for medical students. And then the rest are below your 38, 36. And then the rest, it depends with the tuition cost. Tuition cost varies. Some students, their tuition ranges around 40,000, 30, some 50. So, but NSFAS does cover up to, in fact, up to that budget, irrespective of it's 120 or 110, but they have a standard rate for meals only. I hope that's clear.
No, very, very clear. Thank you for that answer. I like how you mentioned residence, so that takes me straight to Thabani. So Thabani, in terms of residences, right, we know that UKZN or any place that you sleep at basically outside of your home should be a home away from home, right? So how does the UKZN Res Department ensure that students feel safe, comfortable, and they're able to, relax and actually, set the day off for the next day and be able to just feel comfortable in their positions at Res?
Thank you for the question. Residence life is just a few years away. The department of student residence affairs. And this is an office that caters for the needs of students. So to ensure that students feel safe, residence is an extension of space. That's where students start instead of going to class. They have to feel home away from home. So to ensure that we have security guards at the gates, security guards at the access points, we regulate access. Only students with access to the residence can access the residence. And we have a team of 33 RAs. Some residences have 5 RAs or 4 or 2, depending on the size. So those are staff members that look at students after hours. The office staff comes in at the office at 8:30 and leave at 4:30. So to ensure the students are safe and they're taken care of in terms of emergencies, in terms of whatever the crisis is, we have staff that sees to that makes sure that students are safe. They can be infiltrated and valid.
Okay, I like that. I think ensuring that students are safe and that they feel comfortable is a very important part of someone's life within, UKZN as a student, which takes me to Umongezi, right? So Umongezi, you deal with the disability unit and you are a coordinator rather for a specific department. So what measures has the university taken to ensure that we actually create a safe and comfortable environment for those with disabilities?
Thank you so much. A big part of this is ensuring that firstly, the students with diverse disabilities are assessed in order to arrive at what a student as an individual would need to be able to engage meaningfully at a university. And based on what we would have worked out together with the student, we then would communicate this to the relevant other departments, be it your academics, be it residence affairs, student funding. So it takes care of more than half the worries the student would have at a university, ensuring that they won't need to keep explaining themselves and that all is taken care of. All that's left is for them to be able to study. But also in terms of programs that are meant for raising awareness, targeting the university community, staff and students, making sure that all activities that occur on campus, the university community is mindful of the diversity in our student population, which by extension will translate into a safer space for students. Yes, maybe leave it at that for now, but we just there for the student from registration, or should I say admission, all the way to graduation, providing all the support. As I've mentioned, the support would obviously touch all of the departments present here, assisting staff in these departments also to understand how best to do things in a manner that accommodates and considers the diverse needs of students in the category with disabilities. Thank you.
No, thank you for that. Really, I think a part of a really comfortable university experience is having all departments putting in the work to ensure that happens. So thank you so much for that answer. Mark, how are you?
Hi, Timaletu. I'm good, and yourself?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. So we'll just continue on this trail, not a problem. So I just wanted to ask, right, in terms of the health and sports department, right, what measures do you take in terms of assisting students with their health-related issues?
Thank you, Timaletu, for that question. Maybe first and foremost, to introduce myself to those that I did not get an opportunity to. My name is Mark Bashe. I'm the manager for student health and sport. Basically, that is all the 5 campus clinics, 1 in each campus, as well as the sports department. So in relation to your question, when you look at our clinics, we basically provide primary healthcare clinics where students can come in for any ailments, where we've got qualified nurses in our clinics, as well as we have our locum doctors that come twice a week to see those special cases. We also, within the health sector, have got a ambulance service provider that is here to ensure that after hours, if a student falls ill and needs emergency assistance, we are there to assist them and get them to the nearest hospital as soon as possible. I hope I've covered your question. Thank you.
No, you have. So I'm sitting at home asking myself, how much does this cost? Because you're speaking things like medication, assistance with ambulance and all these things, and doctors every 2 weeks. That's, you know, those are people's professions. So how much does it cost for the student to access all of this?
Our university is one of the few in this country that actually, for registered students, this is a free service. When I say it's free, from the medication to seeing the doctor, to the ambulance that'll take you to hospital if there's a need, the service is free. So students, registered students, don't have to pay not even 1 cent.
Right, I love it. So as you've heard it, parents, future students, your children will be taken care of, right? We ensure utmost care for all the people who are part of UKZN. And you've heard it right here, that every single service for healthcare, because healthcare is such an important thing, is free of charge. Right, Mark, actually on that note, I wanted to ask you, you're also the manager for sports, right? That's also a very, very big part of UKZN. We have rugby, we have soccer, we have netball. Describe the sporting life at UKZN.
Thank you, Tamil, again. We have 22 sporting codes. Parents and potential students can go onto our social media, the university social media. They'll see a very professional made video that speaks to what we offer. So we have 22 sporting codes across all the 5 campuses. And what has happened is that we've then divided our sport into 3 categories. You've got high performance. That's for the guys that are really excelling in sport. You know, they've got provincial colors, they've got national colors. And those we also offer scholarships. So if you are a potential student and you have provincial colors, you've got national colors, we do have what is called the UKZN prestigious sports scholarship, which offers you 100% tuition. And if you've got national colors, it also covers your on-campus residence accommodation for you. And then, of course, we've got our recreational sport, where students that don't want to really train and they just want to kick a ball, we also have a lot of those. We're one of the few universities, again, in this country that we can safely say we boast over 100 football teams within our internal residence league. And that is fully fledged teams across the 5 campuses. So we do offer anything from your team sports, which is your football, rugby, swimming, to your chess for the very quiet people, and also underwater sport, which is a very unique sporting code as well.
All right. I think really that just goes to show that UKZN is not only focused on academics, but we're a wholesome institution that also enables people to have fun while they're studying. Thank you for that, Mark. Ayanda, over to you. Let's come back to you. Right. Let's say someone has been studying and they're like, actually, I don't think I want to do this module anymore, but I've paid for it. Right. What happens in that situation? Can you get your money back? What is the procedure?
Okay. The procedure, if the student needs to deregister for a block, they need to consult the college office. They will have a look at the dates, and depending on what date the student is deregistering, is charged a certain percentage of fees. So that's how it works. You fill in a form at the college, and then they deregister you in the system, but you are charged or not charged depending on the time of the year you're deregistering the block. So that's basically how it works.
Okay, does the same apply for a full degree? Like, what happens in that? If I want to, let's say, actually, I've been accepted at the university. I thought I was going to come to UKZN, then I get an offer, unfortunately, somewhere else, right? What happens in that instance? Do you get your money back?
You don't get your acceptance fee back, which is like a 250 rands, but you do get the rest of your registration fee back. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. So now, let's come back to you. Right, so Mark was talking about sport, and he was talking about how they have certain scholarships for different I'll say brackets of people, and how they've got a wholesome sporting life going on, and that means there needs to be money that is allocated. You also mentioned the healthcare system as well, right? So in the funding department, how do you then, as a team, allocate certain budgets for the different things that the university has to offer?
No, as long as I'm not sure whether you're referring to scholarships.
in general?
Scholarships, no, in general, for instance, for NSFAS, it's one pot. So the money follows the student.
Okay.
So we don't have a literal budget, but we focus on students that we have that are funded. And the decision to fund is done by NSFAS. So the student comes to us and then we get a universal funded list that has all the students are across the nation. And then we select and clear those students for registration. And then for scholarship, like Mark said, Mark does the communication with the scholarship heads. And then they send all the necessary documentation as per the criteria. And then the funds are selected to the student. And then the student can proceed with the registration. And then with bursaries, we usually get a funded list from the sponsor stating that this year we are funding these 12 students. We are covering registration, meals, tuition. They send the breakdown, everything. And also for those that, for some reason, they reside in private accommodation, they'll state that maybe we do not pay more than 30,000 per private accommodation, but also they need a lease agreement upfront. It should be viewed by the sponsor. So most of the time, we don't literally have a budget for such because it's controlled externally. But we do have some random calls for funding that come during the course of the year, whereby they say, we need 50 students. We're gonna fund them 150. They can also, if they have paid their own registration, you can refund them back. But as long as there are a certain criteria, maybe they're doing, from your accounting side, or whether it's medicine, medical student, or engineering or science. So, but we send it to the sponsor. The sponsor will look and then choose the one they feel they are fit for that particular funding, and then they fund as per we do have contracts in place, your MO, your memorandum of agreement or memorandum, MOUs or yes of understanding. So everything has already been stated on the contract prior going to the breakdown as to how much should be spent. But all that is coming from the sponsor as it's their money. So we just have to administer according to their regulations or policies.
Okay, so basically what I'm gauging is that you basically are, I'll say the middleman. So someone is funding a student, and then at your college and funding, you assist in terms of how to now use this money that has been funded for the student for it to best benefit the student.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for that. So Thabani, let's go back to you, right? So residences have young students who are living there, and again, we've spoken about it being a home away from home. However, it's not always hunky-dory. It's not always, a walk in the park. So there are lots of challenges that students face by living or by virtue of being away from home. So what are some of these challenges that you've encountered over the years that some students face? And how then do you as a department assist these students with these problems?
All right, thank you. I don't think I did justice with the issue of safety and security initially, but it's fine. I'll probably get to that time. Yeah, so we face many challenges in residences. The chaos sometimes can come from outside, sometimes it emanates from within. We have issues of theft sometimes. We have issues of unreported visitors, squatting, draining resources, and all those kinds of things. So to regulate such behavior, we have rules in the residences to make sure that there are no unreported visitors or squatters. Students must report their visitors, and the visitor cannot stay more than 3 consecutive nights because it's a visit. In terms of issues of theft, like I said, we have cameras in residences to track if somebody was an intruder in strategic areas as well. So to make sure that the issue of safety is maximized. We do also have unruly students in the residences, and in those cases, we issue fines to try and curb such behavior. We do have students who drink a lot of alcohol, maybe sometimes it's stress. So we do offer counseling. We work closely with counseling student training so that they could give us their assessment and all those kinds of things. But generally, whatever challenge we have, we manage it because we work with many outside stakeholders. See some of them here. And students who have issues of clearance or payments, we work closely with the Office of Funding or so we get by very well because we not just work as a silo. One yeah.
All right. Okay, no, thank you so much for that. I like the fact that it's not just, you know, the department on its own, working on its own to ensure the safety. There's a community of people that ensures the safety of all the students at UKZN. So thank you for sharing that. Mongezi, let's go back to you, right? So you work with a very, I'll say, sensitive group of people, right? I think in society, we can all admit that we work with a group of people. And when it comes to disability-related issues, there are lots of stigmas attached. There are lots of stereotypes attached as well. So because you're working with people, it becomes important then to be a person who understands that and is able to work with those people. So how do you then as a department ensure that you know, destigmatize the group that you work with and also just to make and create awareness around people with disabilities?
Thank you so much for the question. As I did indicate earlier, that we target platforms where students are, or platforms that would be used by students. For instance, in residents, we would partner with residents to organize and run programs that target students, prioritizing especially residences where students with disabilities would be staying, trying to make sure that these students we use in trying to educate the rest of the university community as to the rights of students with disabilities, but also just to bring the rest of the university community to understand that, you know, these are us students with the same aspirations as the rest of the other student population, but also bring them to understand that actually more than a disability a student may have, it is the university environment itself that, you know, was designed to exclude this group. And therefore that the existence of the department, the disability unit, is aimed at leading the fight to now amend the existing processes as well as the built environment to start including the group that was excluded through society's way of thinking about this group. So we would target platforms also like your school board meetings to ensure that your academics at that level are brought to understand as well the dynamics surrounding the support of students with disabilities. Working also, I did touch on our relationship with departments like student funding, you know, sitting in committees where, for instance, students' applications for funding and devices that can help them learn would be screened, trying to get them to understand that, you know, this application would be consistent, for instance, with the student's disability because of A, B, and C. So in that way, we enable them to equip them with that understanding to be able to make decisions that do not disadvantage the student, but also stigmatize them. I am not sure if I would have sufficiently addressed the question, but thank you so much.
No, you have. No, definitely you have. So it is evident that UKZN and your department in particular ensures the best for the people that you're working with by ensuring that their stay as comfortable as possible. So thank you for that answer. Mark, let's go back to you, right? Sport is exciting. Let's be honest. I think when you see your rugby teams on Impi, on Shield, if I'm not mistaken, as well, there's a huge hype that comes with that. So how do you ensure, because for example, let's say I've come into UKZN and I'm studying accounting, right? But I don't have a sports scholarship or anything of that sort, but I'm also really passionate about sports. So how do you as a department sort of help me as a student find that passion and allow that passion to also have an impact in my life at UKZN?
Thanks, Tembeletu. At our university, UKZN Sport, basically we have in our employment professional sports people, people that have either played sport at a professional level. All our staff hold degrees in sport, some even post degrees. So one, I can say our services are professional by nature. Secondly, we work hand in hand with the student clubs. So each club has a committee that will govern how they operate for the year, that will put together their action plan for the year. Then they will meet with us as a department to see how we can actually make that action plan come to life. But more above that, we then have the employment of coaches. We employ coaches far and wide. Some of our very prestigious coaches that we've hired right now. Our head of UKZN football is none other than the former Bafana Darren Buckley. Our head of UKZN netball is also former Protea, Precious Mtembu. We've got Donald Ngwenya, who works with the Natal Sharks. He's also our head of rugby at the moment. So we do take our sports serious. So if we do get a student who's actually wants to become better in that particular code of sport, we take them through the channels, and eventually then they'll start playing in the leagues. From the leagues, they will then go and play in what is known as the University Sports South Africa, USA, championships, which happen across the country every year. Then they will play for Team UKZN, and of which we are dominating in most of these codes of sport. So we definitely would use an individual who has that passion of just wanting to be better in sport. Not everyone that plays for our teams is on a sports scholarship, but everyone who has the passion, we make sure that we bring them closer.
All right. Thank you so much for that, Mark. I think really UKZN does a stunning job at enabling, students to become a full part of the university. The sporting department is really incredible. On that note, good evening once again to everyone who's joined us tonight. Thank you for watching. We really hope that you are learning a bit more about these departments and why you should register at UKZN. Mark, let me come back to you because you hold two caps tonight, right? So let me ask you this question. When it comes to health, I think earlier we touched on health in terms of physical health. So there's a clinic, there's an ambulance, there are doctors who come. Students have a tough life in university. I don't think we speak or address that enough, right? Mental health, issues of suicide, issues of people being depressed is a huge, huge part of a student's life and universities in general, right? What measures does your department then take to ensure that you sort of help people bridge, that gap in terms of how they're feeling in terms of their mental health?
Thanks again, Tembeletu. In regards to the campaigns that we run, the health and the health awareness campaigns that are run in our university, we work hand in hand with departments such as your HIV/AIDS unit, that is led by Mr. Amit Rambali, as well as the college student support services managers, because they are the qualified psychologists that deal with the students in terms of their mental health. But when we do our campaigns, we ensure that we try and address those student concerns. We try and look at what are the trends that are happening on our campuses in terms of issues around suicidal matters, as well as some other health issues that we've picked up over the years. To say, for example, at the beginning of the year and the beginning of the second semester, there's a campaign that's run that's called First Things First, which in short, it's to remind students that why are you at the University of KwaZulu-Natal? You're here to study, to graduate at the end of that degree and possibly do a postgrad as well. So we always try to make sure that the students don't lose focus of their ultimate goal, which is to come to UKZN, study, and walk out with the degree that's from our university, and then become a better member of society at the end of the day. So we look at those campaigns that will build students. And also, when you look at issues around food, there's a lot of students that come from homes that that they cannot afford to send monthly stipends to the students. So we do also have programs that address that, where if hungry students come onto our campus and they need, we have what we call emergency packs in our clinics. We're able to give them food, and then we link them up with the college support services managers in order for them to then be counseled and to be assisted either through NSFAS or through what the university has in terms of food vouchers as well.
Okay, no, that's a very important part. And I really do hope that all those who are watching are made aware of the fact that it's not just about the physical well-being, that, you know, you also do take care of the mental well-being of the students. And that's a very important part. Thank you so much for that, Mark. I'll come back to you a bit later. And just let's come back to you. Right. So what are some of the challenges that you face in the funding department in terms of how to assist students?
Well, I think the most issue we have, we will get the funding and select the student according to the criteria, but now the student don't respond positively. We send emails on time, we advertise on LAN, we go as far as calling. And, you know, we talk about students that we know for sure that they're in campuses. We know for a fact that they do owe fees, so they need the funding, but they don't respond. And that impacts badly on us because the sponsor does not come back and kind of like renew the funding for the following year. Those are the main problems or challenges we encounter at student funding. Thank you.
No, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because I would think that all students would, you know, actually be following after you to find out whether they've got the funding or not. It's supposed to be the other way around. Yeah, sure.
Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite.
Yeah. And would you say that you also encounter something similar to that? Because the departments are quite similar.
Of course, you know, I think it's always been a challenge to try and engage with students, you know, and of course it goes without saying that universities need money to run, and we are in the business of collecting money, but at the same time we're very, very sensitive to the fact that some students are from disadvantaged backgrounds. So we would like students to take advantage of these opportunities. If there's a bursary, if there's a sponsor, if there's anybody who want to sign a particular document and return to our offices, and we would like to student to do so as soon as possible. Yeah, so it's always been a challenge.
I can imagine. Sure. So Thabani, let's say there's a student who needs residence but does not qualify in terms of NSFAS or does not have the relevant funding, right? But they are, let's say, from Newcastle, very far from Durban. They need a place to stay. They have acceptance for tuition or to be a student, but they just don't have a place to stay. And in as much as, like Ayanda was saying earlier, that, you know, institutions need money to run, but at the end of the day, you're also dealing with people. So how do you sort of mitigate those things? How do you sort of, you know, bridge that gap and still be able to assist? Or what measures rather do you use to sort of help people still find residence, even if they are in a financial predicament?
All right, thank you. We actually do encounter a lot of those cases. Students would come maybe to and they didn't get a firm offer for residence because usually when the first years apply, they apply to CAO and we give colleges spaces. It depends how big the college is, and it's the college that determines which student deserves accommodation. Now, some students don't have funding, like you said. Yes, and in such cases, we have different kinds of accommodation. Actually, we have on-campus and off-campus accommodation, and off-campus mostly it's leased buildings, and we do have private accommodation as well, which is privately owned by landlords, but we do make assessments to check see. So usually we would recommend that the student pays the deposit and come up with a payment plan. Because if you pay the rest deposit, 0.75, it's 3,000, and then you can get access to the residence, but we have to come up with a payment plan, because if you not pay for the year, you might have the difficulty of financial clearance the following year, residence, which is going to be a problem. So we also do recommend that students to go to student fees, student funding, to check their income bursaries, or because that's their sector, that's their speciality. We usually offer space and accommodation to assist those maybe with bursaries, scholarships, who have NSFAS, and those who are self-funded. But if you do not have funding and you are struggling, we will recommend that you come up with a financial plan, payment plan, and pay that rest deposit. Alternatively, you go and see student funding to see if they can recommend.
Okay, all right. No, thank you. Let me go back to funding now. I think it's quite an important thing, because we have, like you mentioned, Thabani, that it's a very common occurrence, right? Where you have students who have acceptance for college, but not necessarily for residences. So with the funding department, right? So let's come back to Nkatuzelo. How then do you assist that person?
Well, I think this is the second year we have been having a small partial basar that is called SRC basar. That helps such students that do not have an access, like the primary registration, which is up to an amount of 7,350. So it covers the registration for tuition and registration for residence. So such students, they get from that funding. And we also have a database for all our students that do not have funding, where we pick and then select and give, but mostly that SRC Basar covers us. It's named SRC Basar, but so it covers such students, at least to access the entry to the university, while we're trying to source and place them in relevant funding throughout the course of the year. But as long as another issue we have, that students, they don't check, they don't read or learn notices, they just ignore them. Yet there's a lot of funding there, a lot of useful communication there. Yeah, thank you.
Sure, I love that, even if someone doesn't have funds, you're still able to assist them. So that SRC bursary is a really, really great initiative. So props to UKZN for that. I hope everyone heard about that, because that's a very, very right step in the right direction. Mark, let's come back to you, right? So earlier on, you mentioned the star coaches. You mentioned that you've got coaches who come from Protea, who come from Bafana Bafana, the Sharks. Great. But what are, I can say, the highlights of the sporting department, and who are you can say, that person comes from UKZN, just by the way?
Thank you, Timberlake. Look, in terms of our highlights, I think one thing that I can say is sport in this university has got such a great power that 2 weeks ago, when we hosted our varsity football match against the University of the Free State in Harvard College, we had over 3,000 students coming to attend one football game, not multiple, just one game. 3,000 students, not an incident that was recorded during or after that particular game. So it shows you the power that it has in terms of just building social cohesion, because you'll get students from all walks of life. People will always think that soccer is for your African male students, but you'll be surprised at how many different races, different genders that would come just to support one team, which is Team UKZN. So in saying that, I think our stars that we've had in the past, even currently, I'll name right now a current student by the name of Umine Ntlekcele, who is going to Turkey next month as part of Team South Africa, and she's a boxer. So yeah, no, we do. We have ladies that are boxing. We have Mary Zulu, who also last week was playing in the Springboks under-20 in Potchefstroom. And then, of course, former students. I think our biggest highlight so far in the past maybe 3 years has been Kola Sabiane. She was part of the women's AFCON team that won the AFCON. She's a graduate of the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and wherever she goes, she flies that flag high, and she lets people know where she comes from. So we do have top athletes competing nationally. We also have great sporting teams. I mean, as you mentioned, our Varsity Shield team, which is the rugby team, plays in the FNB Varsity Shield. Our football team is playing in the Varsity Sports Football, which is currently on. As we speak today, they were playing University of Pretoria. I'm yet to see the score because I think it was a live TV game. So we also have those opportunities where students are actually, they get to be seen on national TV, Super Sport, live, and they get to showcase. Our women's volleyball team won the South African club volleyball championships, and they will be representing the country in Malawi next month. So we do have a high profile of high performance athletes within our university. And I think the last one would be Uzagi Tinene, who was in the previous Olympics. He's a 400-meter runner, comes from this institution, graduated under the College of Humanities. So we do have them, and we hope to see more coming through as well.
Nice. We hope to see more. We really hope to see. Who knows? You could be going to Turkey, Puerto Rico, or wherever representing UKZN. So take the chance and come and play sports at UKZN. I promise you will not regret your decision. Mongezi, let's go back to you now. We've been speaking about challenges, we've been speaking about hardships and all of that. But what are some of the fun activities or the fun ways in which you ensure that your department, keeps that gusto to help your department?
I'm so sorry. I lost you for a bit.
Oh, I'm saying, what are some of the fun ways that your department keeps your students interacting with each other?
Thank you so much for that. We do have an organization for students with disabilities. These are students themselves who are taking the lead and shaping how they would want to be a part of the university. So our role as a department then would be working with them, making sure that they lead the way, and we play that supportive role, be it to enable their participation in sports, be it to organize programs that are aimed at making sure really that they also are a part of the field at the university. But also as a department, we do have programs, for instance, that are aimed at developing their skills, leadership skills, connecting them also with making sure that we build those relationships with potential employers, while at the university they would get that that opportunity to interact with people who can employ them in the future, who can therefore mentor them while they are at the university, but most importantly, is to ensure, we do ensure that they are not left out in the programs that already are meant to be enjoyed by the rest of the student population. So if you hear Tabani there speaks of programs that are there for students in residence, they also get to benefit from those programs, with the disability units having ensured that the design and indeed running of these programs does consider the needs of students with disabilities in their diversity. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much for that. I like that you mentioned inclusivity. It's a very important part. I think, Tabane, that takes me back to you now in terms of how then do you ensure inclusive programs within residences? Because besides it being a place of just, you know, living as a student, I'm sure there are some initiatives and there's some fun activities that you have for the students whilst they're in res. So what do you guys do to make it inclusive?
All right, thank you. We really do cater for students who come from different backgrounds, culturally, whether various differences. But what we do, we have a section called Residence Life Programs. And in this part here, it's designed to cover the holistic development. We have programs such as financial literacy, because that part of conducting that program is to make sure that we try and curb issues of theft, because if students don't prioritize what they buy with their money, they end up not getting, they steal. So we bring such programs to teach them how to manage money, how to budget. We also have programs of mental health to make sure that students they have their emotions and their issues properly regulated, because being at the university is very stressful. And some students attempt suicide and all those kinds of things. So we do call specialists come in and talk to students about our issues. We also do things like CV writing skills, because we do understand that sometimes students, the reason why they don't get employed, they cannot even forge a proper CV, which means screening process get thrown away. So we try to teach them how to write CVs and all those kinds of things. We also have programs of substance abuse, to conscientize them about the dangers of drug substances. But we do have sports, we do have fun runs. Earlier this year, after COVID, because the restrictions, we had a walk with the joint with sports department, and a big number of students came out. They were happy to be outside, even though we respected the regulations, but we were actually outside. Yeah, but we do have talent shows and all those kinds of things as well to see who are potential. We submit those reports to corporate for those things to publish. We have a lot of fun activities to keep the students' life balanced in the academics and their social life.
All right, thank you. Indeed, it's very important for students to have that balance, you know, not just academics. You also, I heard talent shows in the midst of things as well. So it's really nice to hear that you're able to have that fun element. Mark, let's go back to a very important thing, right? I'm sure in the health department, you have an issue with substance abuse, right? You are in university, you have young adults who are engaging in a lot of things that they probably never dabbled in before. What initiatives do you then have in order to sort of curb that substance abuse?
In regards to programs around substance abuse, Tembeletu, we, in fact, as a health clinics, campus health, we don't work alone when we try to address this issue when it comes to programs. We work mainly with DSRA, RMS, our risk management services, with our HIV/AIDS unit through the health promoters, as well as sport, because the programs that the university itself has come together to actually acknowledge that this is a problem in society. And as an institution, we are not independent from society. You know, our students inside our campuses are a society on their own. So we do find these problems inside. So the institution has created a forum whereby we try to come up with programs that speak to alcohol and substance abuse. We look from a sports angle again at how we can encourage students to actually play recreational sport during the time when they're lingering and they don't know what to do, instead of trying to find ways of enjoying themselves through alcohol and substance abuse, but do sport. Tabani has also confirmed that through Res Life programs, they also encourage students to participate in the various sports, arts, and culture programs that are within campus. So we come together as an institution to ensure that we deal with this particular ill in our society, because our students, at the end of the day, we can't say that they are separate from society in general.
100%. I like that very realistic approach to societal issues and societal ills. We cannot separate students from the issues that are in society, because at the end of the day, university is its own community in and of itself. So I think ensuring that you have such things put in place to curb such is really important. So thank you so much for clarifying that. As we're nearing the end of our session today, I want to ask just one question to each of the panelists. And let's go back to you. We haven't heard from you in quite some time. So how would you describe the assistance that the department gives to the students? How would you say your department assists students in, I'd say, a 30-second elevator pitch of this is how we assist you as a student?
Okay. Since I am from student fees, of course, we assist students with finances. But more importantly, we want to encourage students to come and visit us when they have registered, to find out what happens now, when fees are due, what can I do in the interim before I get a sponsor, and things like that. And we want to encourage students to make those contributions while you're looking for a sponsor, if you don't have a sponsor, because it helps you. So those are the type of things, but inquire, find out as much as you can. Thanks.
I like that. Thank you so much, Anna. Inquire, find out as much as you can. Even if you do not have a sponsor, you can still get assistance. And Ayanda is the person to go to if you ever need that assistance. Thank you so much for that, Ayanda. Untitled, how would you describe the assistance that you give to all the students at UKZN?
Excuse me?
How would you describe?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. How would you describe the assistance that you give to students at UKZN in your department?
Oh, there is nothing like a happy student that has funding, security with food, accommodation, payment of fees. But most importantly, I would advise students to consult with their financial aid advisors at college level. Most of the time, they don't know, they confuse. Most social new students, they go into wrong offices, getting wrong information, and then understand that it has been COVID, so things have been hectic. We don't know where to go, what to do. But it's advisable as early as possible. Go to financial aid advisors. They do have access in communication with NSFAS, more especially with NSFAS students, because those that they experience a lot of challenges to know as to whether they're funded or not. Some are funded, but they don't know which steps to take, what to do, where to move. So first thing first, whether you're funded or not, rather consult with your college. We do have financial aid advisors that would escalate your queries straight to NSFAS. For instance, we do have students that maybe were funded earlier March, but around June, they don't know where to go, what to do. So yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Consult. If there's one thing to catch from what Untitled just said, consult, please, so that your journey is smooth at UKZN. Thank you for that. Mongezi, how would you describe the assistance that you give to the students at UKZN?
Thank you so much. I would say that we ensure that there are minimal barriers preventing you as a student from learning and being a part of the university actually. So I would say also that we empower you to be able also to self-represent and be able really to take your place as a student at our university, position you to be able to see those opportunities when there are leadership positions available, be it in residence. You should also, we leave you in a position where you're able to see what to do to be able to take full advantage of those. So as the department, although we may not, our role is not to do to take over your role as a student, but we surely do leave you in a position where you're able to perform to the best of your ability, academically and otherwise, as a student with the disability you have. Thank you so much.
No problem. I really like what you said in the beginning, that you ensure that there are minimal barriers that prevent you from being a student. That is a very critical component of trying to make the life of all students a lot more comfortable within their journey. So thank you for sharing that. Thabani, how would you describe the assistance that you give to students?
Well, thank you. I think where students stay has a direct impact on their academic success or excellence. So if there's chaos, then it affects their academic performances. And if there's issues of maintenance, leaks, and Wi-Fi problems, then they protest, meaning that the academic program gets delayed. So being in residence is a very important part of the student life. This is why we deal with issues of capacity building through different workshops. We have academic mentors, we have house committees, we have evaluation officers, we have RAs. All these people, we try to help them to more than just students, because nothing is exciting as receiving different calls from different companies seeking a referral recommendation for a particular student, asking what exactly were they doing while they were still here, and go back and check and actually do the record when they get the employment. So with various programs like Heritage Day, where everybody comes together and celebrate their culture, change their food, it's all about inclusivity and integration, and to make sure that there's harmony and order, so that they can achieve that. Yes.
All right, thank you for that. I like that, ensuring harmony. That's a very important part again. Mark, we're back with you. How do you ensure a smooth journey for the students?
Thanks, Temeletu. I think our departments, they always try to ensure that we meet the university's goal, which is to establish UKZN as an institution of choice that values students at the end of the day, and it's got a student-centered ethos as well. And how do we do this is that through our healthcare system or healthcare clinics, we ensure that we provide professional and confidentiality within our clinics. We don't have fly-by-night clinics. We have clinics that are manned by professionally qualified and registered healthcare professionals. And then from the sporting element, it's to ensure that we provide a professional support service to our sports clubs and to our athletes and to the students at large. And by this, we ensure that we develop sport and recreation programs, we implement our high performance program, and at the end of the day, we also manage our beautifully kept sports facilities as well.
All right, thank you for that, Mark. As we draw to the near end of our session tonight, I just have one last question for all the panelists. In one word, just one adjective, how would you describe your journey so far working in the different departments at UKZN? Just one word. Mark, let's go with you.
Inspired.
Inspired, right. I like it. Inspiring greatness, you're inspired. The perfect match. Mongezi?
Eye-opening.
Eye-opening. Interesting, right. Ayanda? We can't hear you. I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. I would say interesting.
Interesting, okay.
Yeah.
Inspired, eye-opening, interesting. Okay. Nondutuzela?
Well, it's amazing.
Amazing. Lovely.
To have a
like
student,
that.
You feel good and amazing when a student has everything in terms of funding. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. Thank you. Amazing when you see the smile on the student's face when they have been assisted. That's lovely. Thabani, let's close up with you. In one word, how would you describe your time at UKZN this one?
We deal with a lot of complexity, so I would say it's really fascinating.
Fascinating. We end off with a bombastic. Fascinating. I love it. Thank you so much to each and every one of you for joining us tonight. I certainly have learned a whole lot more about the different departments at UKZN and how they assist and ensure a smooth, comfortable journey for every single student at UKZN, because we know that UKZN is not just about academics. There's much more to it. We are a multifaceted institution. We are also the premier institution of African scholarship. We inspire greatness, we produce greatness, we are greatness. Thank you so much to each and every person who has joined us this entire week. It's been 4 jam-packed days with 4 different sessions of absolutely amazing people from UKZN. We had alumni, we had people from different clubs and societies. Today we had student leadership. Earlier on we had academic leaders who were just sharing a bit more insight about UKZN. Parents, future students, we hope you have been inspired to actually join this winning team, this running train called UKZN. If you haven't applied, there is still time. Go ahead and apply and join the family of UKZN. We are not called the African Premium Institution for nothing, because UKZN really does produce stellar quality people. I am Utembele Tishange. It's been an absolute pleasure being a host for this week. From UKZN and all the leaders tonight, goodbye and God bless. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.